Captain Lee Ji-won stood on the bridge of her ship, watching the stars through the large window. Her ship was called the Taegukgi, and it was one of Earth's biggest warships. She had been patrolling the edge of human space for 3 months now. Everything seemed quiet and normal. The communication officer turned around in his chair. "Captain, we're getting a message from the Galactic Council. It's marked as urgent." Lee Ji-won walked over to the main screen. "Put it on." The screen flickered and then showed a creature that made her stomach turn. It was tall, covered in dark green scales with yellow eyes and sharp teeth. Its voice was deep and full of hate. "I am Supreme War Master Krexthan of the Vorthak Empire," the alien said. "I speak for the Galactic Council. We have decided that humanity is a danger to all peaceful species in the galaxy." Lee Ji-won felt her hands tighten into fists. She had met aliens before, but none had ever spoken with such disgust in their voice. The alien continued. "Your species spreads too fast. You take planets without asking. You build weapons when you should build farms. You fight when you should surrender. This cannot continue." The message was being sent to all human worlds at the same time. Lee Ji-won knew that millions of people were watching this ugly creature threaten their way of life. "The Council gives humanity 30 days, Krexthan said. "You will leave all planets outside your original solar system. You will come to the worlds we choose for you. There you will live under our protection and guidance. If you refuse, we will force you." The alien leaned closer to the camera. "Do not think you can fight us. 7 great civilizations stand together against you. We have been traveling the stars for thousands of years while you were still hitting rocks together. Your small ships and simple weapons cannot stand against our might." Lee Ji-won watched as the alien's mouth twisted into what might have been a smile. "We know what you are thinking, soft-skinned vermin. You think you are brave. You think you are strong. You are wrong. You are children playing with toys, and now the adults have come to put you in your place." The message ended. The bridge was completely silent. Lee Ji-won looked around at her crew. They all had the same expression on their faces. Anger. Pure, burning anger. "Get me a direct line to Earth Command," she said quietly. While her communication officer worked, Lee Ji-won thought about what she had just heard. The aliens called humans vermin. They spoke about them like they were animals that needed to be put in cages. They had 30 days to give up everything they had built among the stars. "Connection established, Captain," the officer said. Admiral Park Do-hyun appeared on the screen. He looked tired and worried. "Ji-won, tell me you got that message too and I'm not going crazy." "I got it, sir." "What are your orders?" Park Do-hyun rubbed his face with his hands. "Get back to Earth as fast as you can. I'm calling every ship, every captain, every soldier. We need to talk." 3 days later, Lee Ji-won sat in the biggest meeting room on Earth. Around the table were the most important people in human space. Admiral Park Do-hyun sat at the head of the table. Next to him was Dr. Kim Mirai, who knew more about aliens than anyone else alive. "Let's be honest," Park Do-hyun said. "We're in trouble. The Council has 7 major species working together. They have thousands of ships. We have maybe 300 real warships." Dr. Kim Mirai opened her files. "I've been studying their message. The way Krexthan spoke tells us a lot. He wasn't trying to scare us. He was talking to us the way you talk to a dog that won't obey." Lieutenant Commander Choi Hyun-woo, their best tactical officer, looked up from his notes. "What about their demand for 30 days? Why give us time at all?" "Because they don't think we'll fight," Dr. Kim Mirai said. "They think that when we see how big their fleet is, we'll just give up." Admiral Park Do-hyun stood up and walked to the big map of human space on the wall. "We have colonies on 47 worlds. Each one has millions of people, families, children. They want us to abandon all of that." Captain Lee Ji-won had been quiet, but now she spoke. "What if we say yes? What if we go to their reservation worlds?" Dr. Kim Mirai shook her head. "I've studied how they treat other species they've protected. Those species don't exist anymore." "Not really. They live in small groups, doing simple work, having few children. In a few hundred years, they fade away completely." The room was quiet for a long time. Everyone understood what that meant. The aliens weren't offering protection. They were offering a slow death. "So we fight," Admiral Park Do-hyun said finally. "With what?" asked General Yu Sungmin, who commanded the Marines. "They have us outnumbered 50 to 1. "With everything we have," Park Do-hyun replied. "And with everything we are." Dr. Kim Mirai pulled up pictures of the alien species in the council. The Vorthak are the leaders. They're strong and aggressive, but they fight in straight lines. The Zilani are good with technology, but they avoid taking risks. The Thuros are perfect soldiers, but they only follow orders. Lieutenant Commander Choi Hyunwoo was taking notes. What about us? What makes humans different? Dr. Kim Mirai smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. We're crazy. Every other species in the galaxy tries to avoid extinction. We run toward it. When things get bad, we get more dangerous, not less. Engineer Oh Yoon-ji, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. I have some ships in development. New designs. The aliens don't know about them. How new? Admiral Park Do-hyun asked. New enough that they might surprise someone, she said quietly. Admiral Park Do-hyun looked around the table. I want to be clear about something. If we fight, some of us will die. Maybe all of us will die, but if we surrender, we'll die slowly over many years while watching our children forget what it means to be human. Captain Lee Ji-won thought about the alien's voice, full of hate and disgust. She thought about the way he called them vermin. She thought about her own daughter, who was only 8 years old and loved to paint pictures of the stars. I vote to fight, she said. One by one, everyone else in the room agreed. Admiral Park Do-hyun nodded. Then it's decided. Send a message to every human world. Tell them what's coming. Tell them we're not giving up our homes. Tell them we're not going to live in cages. What about the aliens? Dr. Kim Mirai asked. Do we send them an answer? Park Do-hyun thought for a moment. Yes. Tell them that humanity respectfully declines their offer. Tell them that if they want our worlds, they'll have to take them. Should we tell them anything else? Lieutenant Commander Choi Hyunwoo asked. Admiral Park Do-hyun looked out the window at the blue sky of Earth. Somewhere up there, alien fleets were getting ready for war. They thought humans were weak. They thought humans would be easy to defeat. Tell them that they have no idea what they just started, he said quietly. The message was sent the next day. It was short and simple. Humanity would not surrender. Humanity would not abandon their colonies. If the aliens wanted war, they would get war. The aliens probably thought humans were being foolish. They probably laughed at the idea of 300 human ships fighting against their thousands. They probably told each other that the war would be over quickly. They were wrong about that. They were wrong about everything. The first alien ships appeared at the edge of human space exactly 31 days after their ultimatum. They came in small groups, targeting the farming worlds and mining stations first. The aliens thought this was smart. Cut off food and resources, and humans would have to surrender quickly. Colonel Yu Sung-min was on New Busan when the aliens arrived. New Busan was a mining world with 2 million people. It had big machines for digging, factories for processing ore, and enough weapons to fight off pirates. But it wasn't built for war against a real military force. Yu Sung-min watched from his command post as 12 alien ships entered orbit around New Busan. They were sleek and beautiful, with smooth curves and glowing lights. They looked nothing like the rough, practical human ships. The alien commander sent a message to the planet. His voice was calm and polite, nothing like the angry Krexthan from the first message. People of New Busan, I am Fleet Commander Thexnol of the Zilani Protectorate. We are here to relocate you to a safe world where you will be cared for. Please gather at the spaceports with only personal belongings. Transport ships will arrive in 6 hours. Colonel Yu Sung-min looked around at his officers. They were all thinking the same thing. The alien talked like humans were pets being moved to a new home. Sir, what are your orders? Asked Major Kim Sung-hoon. Yu Sung-min thought about his wife and children back on Earth. He thought about the millions of people on New Busan who had built lives here. Farmers who had turned empty ground into fields of food, miners who had pulled valuable metals from deep underground, children who had been born here and called this world home. Send a message to the alien ships, he said. Tell them that New Busan respectfully declines their offer of relocation. The alien commander seemed surprised by this answer. Colonel Yu Sung-min, I understand you are the military leader here. Please be reasonable. We have 12 warships. You have mining equipment and a few security vessels. This does not have to end in unnecessary death. You're right, Yu Sung-min replied. It doesn't have to. You can leave. 6 hours passed. No transport ships arrived because none had been sent. Instead, the alien warships began to move into attack positions. Yu Sung-min had spent the 6 hours well. Every mining charge on the planet had been moved to strategic locations. Every construction mech had been fitted with the biggest weapons they could find. Every civilian transport had been loaded with explosives and given to volunteer pilots. The first alien ship that entered the atmosphere was expecting to find surrender. Instead, it found hell. Mining charges meant for breaking apart asteroids exploded around the ship as it descended. The charges weren't designed to destroy warships, but there were hundreds of them. The alien ship's shields flared and sparked. Then came the construction mechs. Machines built for digging and lifting had been turned into walking weapons platforms. They fired mining lasers and industrial welders at the alien ship. Again, these weapons weren't made for war, but they were powerful and there were many of them. The alien ship tried to climb back into space, but civilian transports filled with explosives rammed into it from all sides. The pilots were volunteers who knew they wouldn't survive. They sang old Earth songs as their ships exploded against the alien hull. The first alien warship crashed into the mountains outside New Seoul City. It killed 3,000 humans when it hit, but it also killed everyone on board the alien ship. Fleet Commander Thexanol couldn't believe what he was seeing. Civilian ships were attacking his warships. Mining equipment was being used as weapons. Even the humans' children were helping, carrying ammunition and pointing out targets. "These beings are insane," he told his officers. "They're using their own people as weapons." The battle for New Busan lasted 3 days. The humans lost. They had always been going to lose. 12 alien warships were too much for mining equipment and civilian courage to overcome. But when it was over, 7 of those alien ships were destroyed or too damaged to fight. 3,000 aliens were dead. The beautiful, smooth ships were twisted metal scattered across the planet's surface. Most shocking of all, the humans never stopped fighting. Even when it was clear they would lose, they kept attacking. Even when their weapons were broken, they used rocks and tools. Even when they were dying, they sang songs and shouted defiance. Similar scenes played out across human space. On the farming world of New Gangneung, teenagers turned crop-dusting aircraft into bombers. On the mining station of New Incheon, workers used industrial robots to board and capture an alien ship before dying in the explosion they set off. The aliens won every battle, but each victory cost them more ships than they had expected to lose in the entire war. Engineer Oh Yoonji was working 20-hour days in the hidden shipyards around Earth. Her new ship designs were almost ready, and what she was seeing in the battle reports was giving her ideas. "The aliens are good at ship-to-ship combat," she told her team. "Their weapons are more advanced, their shields are stronger, their hulls are tougher. But they're not ready for what we're doing." "What are we doing?" asked her assistant, Dr. Shin Harry. "We're making every ship a weapon," Oh Yoonji said. "We're making every person a soldier. We're not fighting the way they expect us to fight." Pilot Nam Ki-won was leading a squadron of human fighters against an alien patrol near the Jupiter system. His ships were older and slower than the alien fighters, but he had learned something important from the colony battles. "Don't try to outfly them," he told his pilots over the radio. "They're better than us in a straight fight, so don't fight straight." Instead of engaging the alien fighters in normal combat, Nam Ki-won's squadron pretended to retreat. The aliens followed, confident in their superior ships. They followed the humans right into an asteroid field where human ships had been hiding behind the rocks. But these weren't warships hiding in the asteroids. They were cargo haulers and passenger ships, filled with explosives and piloted by volunteers. As the alien fighters passed by, dozens of converted civilian ships rammed into them. Nam Ki-won lost 8 pilots that day, but the alien patrol was completely destroyed. Back on the Vorthak homeworld, Supreme War Master Krexton was receiving battle reports that made no sense to him. "They're using their own people as ammunition," reported one of his commanders. "Civilian ships ram our vessels without warning. Their soldiers fight to the death even when surrounded. Their children help repair weapons while under fire. This is not how civilized beings conduct war," Krexton growled. "They have no concept of acceptable losses. They act as if their own extinction is preferable to defeat." Dr. Kim Murray, back on Earth, was studying recordings of alien communications that human spies had intercepted. What she learned worried her. "They're not evil," she told Admiral Park Do-hyun. "That's what makes this so dangerous. They genuinely believe they're saving the galaxy from us." "Saving the galaxy from what?" "From becoming like us," Dr. Kim Murray said. "Every species in their alliance evolved on worlds with limited resources. They learned to survive by being careful, avoiding risks, controlling their population. We evolved on a world with plenty of resources and many disasters. We learn to survive by being adaptable and aggressive. Admiral Park Do-yoon looked at the tactical displays showing human losses across the colonies. They were losing the war, but they were making the aliens pay for every victory. So they see us as dangerous, he said. No, Dr. Kim Mirai replied. They see us as unstoppable. If we're allowed to spread across the galaxy, we'll eventually replace them not through conquest but through simple biological success. We reproduce faster, adapt quicker, and take more risks. In 1,000 years, the galaxy would be mostly human just through natural expansion, and they can't allow that. From their point of view, letting humanity spread would be species suicide, so they have to stop us now while they still can. Admiral Park Do-yoon understood. This wasn't just a war over territory or resources. This was a war over which type of life would inherit the galaxy. Captain Lee Ji-won received new orders as she patrolled near the Mars system. The orders were simple but frightening. All human ships are authorized to use any means necessary to defend human space. The message read, civilian conversion to military use is approved. Volunteer suicide missions are approved. There are no rules of war that apply when species survival is at stake. Lee Ji-won read the orders twice. Earth Command was telling her that anything was allowed now. Any weapon, any tactic, any sacrifice. She thought about her 8-year-old daughter's paintings of the stars. Then she thought about the aliens who wanted to put humans in cages on reservation worlds. Communications officer, she said, send a message to all human ships in this sector. Tell them to prepare for new tactics. Tell them we're about to show these aliens what humans do when we're fighting for our children's future. The alien fleets were winning, but they were learning something that would have terrified them if they had understood it completely. Humans at war were not the same as humans at peace. 3 months into the war, both sides were learning things they never expected to learn. Research Director Shin Harry was working in a secret laboratory deep under the mountains of Korea. Her job was to study the aliens and find their weaknesses. What she found instead was something much more disturbing. They're not monsters, she told her team during their daily meeting. That's the problem. Her assistant, Dr. Lee Soo-yeon, looked confused. What do you mean? They're trying to wipe us out. Shin Harry pulled up displays showing brain scans of captured alien prisoners. Look at these patterns. When they talk about destroying human colonies, their brains show the same activity as when humans talk about stopping a disease. They genuinely believe they're saving the galaxy. Captain Bae Ju-yeon was running intelligence operations behind enemy lines. She had managed to insert listening devices into alien communication networks, and what she heard made her blood run cold. The aliens weren't celebrating their victories. They were horrified by them. The humans on New Jeju threw their own children at our soldiers, one Vorthak commander reported, not as shields but as weapons. The children carried explosives and sang as they died. This cannot be normal behavior for any civilized species, replied another voice. Perhaps they have been infected by some form of madness. But Captain Bae Ju-yeon knew the truth. The children of New Jeju had volunteered for those missions because they understood what surrender meant. They would rather die fighting than live as pets in alien zoos. Commander Kwon Tae-hyung was leading special operations raids deep in alien space. His missions were simple. Cause as much damage as possible and make the aliens afraid to leave their home systems undefended. His latest target was a Zalani research station studying human psychology. What his team found there changed everything. Sir, you need to see this, said Sergeant Park Min-woo, holding up a datapad he had taken from the alien computers. The file was titled Psychological Profile Human Species. Classification Extinction Event. Kwon Tae-hyung read the report with growing amazement. The aliens had studied every major species in the galaxy and classified them by how dangerous they were to galactic stability. Most species were rated as stable or minor risk. A few aggressive ones were moderate risk. Humans were the only species ever classified as extinction event. The report explained why. Every other intelligent species in the galaxy had evolved to survive through caution. They avoided risks, controlled their population growth, and expanded slowly and carefully. This made sense because most worlds in the galaxy had limited resources. Earth was different. It had massive oceans, rich continents, and abundant resources, but it also had regular disasters. Ice ages, asteroid impacts, supervolcano eruptions, and mass extinctions happened regularly, so humans evolved differently. They learned to survive not through caution, but through rapid adaptation and aggressive expansion. When disaster struck, humans didn't hide and wait for it to pass. They spread out, reproduced quickly, and adapted to new environments. This is why they're afraid of us, Kwon Tae-hyung realized. We're not just another species to them. We're their natural replacement. The alien report went on to explain that if humans were allowed to spread freely across the galaxy, they would eventually dominate it without even trying. They would simply out-reproduce, out-adapt, and out-compete every other species. From the aliens' perspective, destroying humanity wasn't murder. It was species suicide prevention. Back on Earth, Fleet Admiral Lim Seojun was studying battle reports from across human space. The pattern was becoming clear. Humans were losing every major battle, but they were making the aliens pay a terrible price for each victory. More importantly, the aliens were starting to change their tactics. They were becoming more careful, more cautious. They were afraid. They expected a normal war, Admiral Lim Seojun told his staff. Territory changes hands, some people die. Eventually someone surrenders and peace is negotiated. They've never fought a species that views extinction as preferable to defeat. Dr. Song Yeonwoo, the head of human weapons development, was working on projects that would have been unthinkable before the war. Weapons designed not just to kill enemies, but to make sure nothing could ever live in the target area again. The aliens fight to win, she explained to the ethics committee that was supposed to approve her research. We need to fight to make sure that if we lose, everyone loses. The committee was made up of philosophers, religious leaders, and politicians. They were struggling with the moral implications of Dr. Song Yeonwoo's weapons. These devices would destroy entire star systems, said committee chairman Reverend Kim Young-soo. How can we justify building such things? Because the alternative is worse, Dr. Song Yeonwoo replied. If we lose this war, humans become extinct. Not just killed, but forgotten. Our art, our music, our dreams, everything that makes us human disappears forever. These weapons ensure that if we die, our enemies remember why they should never threaten Earth again. Meanwhile, Captain Han Ji-ho was overseeing the construction of humanity's most terrible ship. It wasn't designed to fight other ships or invade planets. It was designed for one purpose: to destroy worlds so completely that nothing would ever grow there again. The ship was called the Extinction Event, and it represented everything humans had learned about their enemies' psychology. They value stability above all else, Han Ji-ho explained to his crew. They build their civilizations carefully over thousands of years. The idea of losing all that progress terrifies them more than death. Commander Lee Soo-yeon was planning the most ambitious mission in human military history. While the aliens focused their main fleets on attacking human colonies, she was going to lead strike teams to each of the alien home systems simultaneously. We can't win a normal war, she told her mission planners. So we won't fight a normal war. We'll fight the kind of war that makes them wish they had never heard of Earth. The alien commanders were reporting strange things to their leaders. Human prisoners refused to be interrogated, not because they were brave, but because they seemed genuinely happy to die for their cause. Human soldiers fought harder when they were losing than when they were winning. Human civilians seemed to prefer death to capture. Supreme War Master Crexton was reading these reports with growing concern. This is not normal military behavior, he told the Galactic Council. Normal beings fight to live. These humans fight to ensure their enemies die. When we destroy one of their colonies, the survivors don't flee to safety. They volunteer for suicide missions against our fleets. The Thuros representative, General Vexmore, was equally disturbed. My soldiers are trained to follow orders without question. But they are starting to ask why the humans fight so strangely. They want to know if humans feel pain the same way we do. They feel pain, reported Dr. Zelthan, the Council's chief xenobiologist. Our studies show they feel it more intensely than most species, but they seem to consider dying in battle a form of honor rather than failure. The most disturbing report came from Intelligence Chief Yarkol. We intercepted a human communication from New Daegu just before we destroyed the colony. The human military commander was speaking to his soldiers as our ships approached. What did he say? Crexton asked. He said, remember, we are not fighting to live. We are fighting to make sure they regret making us fight. Then he ordered all civilians to pick up weapons. Even their children were given explosives. The council chamber was silent for a long moment. Perhaps, said the elderly Moran diplomat Wisenda, we made an error in our initial approach. Perhaps we should have offered them a more generous surrender. Crexton's yellow eyes blazed with anger. They had their chance to surrender. We offered them entire worlds to live on peacefully. Yes, Wisenda replied quietly. But we offered them worlds where they would live under our guidance. We offered them the life of pets. Perhaps we should have recognized that a species like this would prefer death to domestication. Dr. Zelthan looked up from her reports. It may be too late for that. Our psychological profiles suggest that humans have passed what they call the point of no return. They are no longer fighting to survive. They are fighting to ensure that their extinction is so costly that no one will ever threaten Earth again. That's impossible, General Vexmore said. No species fights for revenge beyond their own death. Humans do, Dr. Zelthan replied. It's how they survived all those extinction events on their homeworld. They don't just adapt to disasters. They make sure the disasters can't happen again. Back on Earth, President Ryu Jimin was making the hardest decision in human history. The aliens had offered one final chance at surrender. Humans could live on reservation worlds, but they would never be allowed to leave or expand. If we accept, she told her advisors, humanity survives but never grows. If we refuse, humanity might die but will be remembered. Admiral Park Do-hyun spoke for everyone in the room. Madam President, I have grandchildren who dream of exploring the stars. I would rather they die free than live as prisoners. President Ryu Jimin nodded. She had expected this answer, but she had to ask the question. Then we fight to the end, she said. And we make sure the end is so terrible that the galaxy never forgets what happens when someone threatens Earth. The aliens had wanted to save the galaxy from humanity. The Battle of Earth lasted 18 hours. When it was over, the human homeworld was scarred but alive. The alien fleet was completely destroyed. 3,000 ships, representing the combined military might of 7 civilizations, had been reduced to drifting wreckage among the orbital debris. But the real battle had not been fought at Earth. Admiral Choi Won-shik stood in the ruins of Seoul's defense center, watching reports come in from across the galaxy. The alien homeworlds were gone. 7 planets that had been homes to advanced civilizations for thousands of years were now expanding clouds of radioactive dust. Sir, reported Captain Kim Tae-jun, we're getting surrender signals from alien fleets across human space. They're requesting permission to return to their home systems. Tell them their home systems no longer exist. Admiral Choi Won-shik replied quietly. Tell them they can surrender to the nearest human commander. President Ryu Jimin emerged from her bunker to find a world changed forever. Earth had survived, but humanity had done something that would echo through galactic history for millennia to come. They had destroyed not 1 species, not 2, but 7 entire civilizations in a single day. Madam President, asked General Park Sun-ho, what do we do with the survivors? There were still millions of aliens scattered across the galaxy on colony worlds, research stations, and trading outposts. They were now the last members of their species, refugees with no home to return to. We give them worlds, President Ryu Jimin said. Good worlds. Safe worlds. We take care of them. Why? General Park Sun-ho looked confused. They tried to exterminate us. Because that's what separates us from them, she replied. They saw a threat and tried to destroy it completely. We saw a threat and destroyed only the threat. The survivors are not our enemies. They're the galaxy's memory of what happens when someone threatens Earth. Captain Park Yuna was still in the abandoned Galactic Council chambers when the last alien homeworld died. She had watched from orbit as Vorthak Prime tore itself apart, its cities and monuments and centers of learning reduced to cosmic dust. She felt no joy in the destruction, only a deep, cold satisfaction. The species that had called humans vermin and wanted to put human children in cages no longer existed. They would never threaten anyone again. All strike teams, this is Captain Park Yuna. She broadcast to the human fleet scattered across 7 star systems. Mission accomplished. All primary targets have been eliminated. Begin Phase 2. Humanitarian operations for survivors. Dr. Jung Seo-hyun deactivated her biological weapon before it could spread beyond the alien military. She had designed it to be reversible, though she had not told the aliens that during the war. The weapon would make them sterile for exactly 100 years, then wear off naturally. Why did you build in a reversal? Asked her assistant, Dr. Bae Kyung-hoon. Because we're not monsters, she replied. We wanted them to think their species was extinct, not actually make them extinct. Fear was the weapon, not genocide, but the aliens didn't know about the reversal. As far as they were concerned, their species were doomed to die out completely within a single generation. 5 years after the war ended, the galaxy had settled into an uneasy peace. Humans controlled vast regions of space not through conquest but because no one dared oppose them. The surviving aliens lived on reservation worlds, not as prisoners but as living reminders. Ambassador Lee Minju was visiting one of these worlds, meeting with Crexton, the former Supreme War Master who now led the surviving Vorthak refugees. "Why do you care for us?" Crexton asked. He was older now, his scales gray with age and sorrow. "We tried to destroy your species, because that's not who we are," Lee Minju replied. "We fought to survive, not to become like you." Crexton looked out the window at the human-built city where his people now lived. It was beautiful and peaceful, with parks and schools and hospitals. The humans had given the Vorthak everything they needed to rebuild their culture, everything except the ability to leave or expand. "Do you know what the other species call this war now?" he asked. "What do they call it?" "The Warning," Crexton said quietly. "Not the human Vorthak War or the Galactic War or the War of Expansion. Just the Warning, because that's what we became. A warning to every species in the galaxy about what happens when you threaten Earth." Captain Lee Ji-won, now an admiral, was exploring the ruins of Vorthak Prime. Her daughter, now 13, was with her on this mission. The girl wanted to be an archaeologist and was studying the remains of the Vorthak civilization. "Mom," her daughter asked, "why did they build their city so beautifully if they knew they might be destroyed?" Admiral Lee Ji-won thought about the question. The Vorthak had created magnificent art, soaring architecture, and centers of learning that had stood for millennia. All of it was gone now, reduced to radioactive debris floating in space. "Because they didn't think anyone would ever destroy them completely," she said. "They thought war was about taking things from each other, not about making sure your enemy ceased to exist." "But we made sure they ceased to exist," her daughter said. "Yes, we did. Was that right?" Admiral Lee Ji-won looked at her daughter, thinking about the choice humanity had faced. Submit to slow extinction on reservation worlds or fight for the right to reach for the stars. "I don't know if it was right," she said honestly, "but it was necessary. And now every species in the galaxy knows that threatening human children has consequences they can't imagine." 100 years after the war, Dr. Shin Harry's great-granddaughter was studying galactic history at the University of New Seoul. Her assignment was to write about the impact of what historians now called the Warning. The galaxy had changed completely. No species had declared war on any other species since the Vorthak alliance was destroyed. When disputes arose, they were settled through negotiation and compromise, because everyone remembered what had happened to the species that had chosen war instead. Humans had spread across thousands of worlds, not through conquest but through simple expansion. Other species sometimes complained about human growth, but they always did so quietly and politely. No one wanted to be seen as threatening Earth. The surviving aliens from the 7 extinct civilizations still lived on their reservation worlds. Their children and grandchildren had been born there, and they had built new cultures adapted to their new homes. They were no longer the Vorthak or the Zalani or the others. They were simply the survivors, living reminders of a war that had changed everything. Dr. Kim Mirai's research notes, now stored in the Galactic Archives, had become required reading for every diplomatic student in known space. Her analysis of why the war had started was considered the definitive explanation. The alien alliance saw humanity as an existential threat, she had written. They were correct. But they failed to understand that humans respond to existential threats by creating bigger existential threats. They thought they were preventing their extinction. Instead, they guaranteed it. The young historian finished her paper with a quote that had become famous across the galaxy. It was from President Ryo Jimin's speech after the war ended. "We did not choose this war. We did not want to destroy 7 civilizations. But when they forced us to choose between our extinction and theirs, we chose theirs. Any species that threatens the children of Earth will face the same choice, and they will face it alone. Because the galaxy has learned what happens to those who declare war on humanity." 300 years later, the phrase "they declared war on Earth" had become the ultimate cautionary tale, told to young aliens across 1,000 worlds. Not a threat, but a simple historical fact. Every species that had ever declared war on humanity no longer existed. New civilizations that encountered humans for the first time were given the same advice by their elders. Be polite. Be respectful. Trade with them. Learn from them. Even be friends with them, but never under any circumstances threaten their worlds or their children. They will not conquer you. They will not enslave you. They will simply ensure that you never existed. The galaxy had learned that humanity's greatest weapon was not their technology, or their numbers, or their ships. It was their absolute, uncompromising commitment to ensuring that anyone who threatened their extinction would face their own. And in the deep archives of Earth, in a vault beneath the ruins of Old Sol, a simple plaque recorded the final lesson of the war. When you declare war on Earth, you are not fighting for territory or resources or political control. You are fighting for the right to continue existing. Choose carefully. The galaxy had chosen. It chose peace, cooperation, and the careful avoidance of anything that might be seen as a threat to human children, because everyone remembered what had happened to those who chose otherwise. The warning had been delivered. The galaxy had learned its lesson, and humanity continued to reach for the stars, knowing that no one would ever again dare to tell them they couldn't. The Alien War Council met in the golden halls of the Vorthak homeworld. Representatives from 7 species sat around a table made from a single crystal, their faces showing fear and confusion. Supreme War Master Crexton stood before a display showing the current state of the war. Red markers showed human colonies that had been destroyed. Blue markers showed alien fleets that had been lost. There were far too many blue markers. "We are winning," Crexton said, but his voice lacked confidence. "We have destroyed 37 human colonies and are approaching their core systems. Earth itself will be under attack within 6 months." General Vexmore of the Thuros Dominion looked at the casualty reports. "We have lost over 800 ships. These were not random pirates or rebels. These were colonies filled with farmers and miners and children. How did they destroy 800 military vessels?" The answer came from Dr. Zelthan, who had been studying human behavior throughout the war. "They turned everything into a weapon. Their civilian ships became bombs. Their industrial equipment became artillery. Their people became soldiers. We were not fighting a military. We were fighting an entire species." Fleet Admiral Lim Seojin was in the command center deep beneath Seoul, watching displays that showed the approach of the largest alien fleet ever assembled. 3,000 ships from 7 different species all heading toward Earth. "Operation Final Cleansing," he said quietly, reading the intelligence reports. "They think destroying Earth will break human resistance across the galaxy." "Will it?" asked his aide, Colonel Kim Jong-ho. Admiral Lim Seojin smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. "They still don't understand us. They think we fight for Earth. We don't. We fight because we are human. Destroying Earth won't end the war. It will remove the last reason we had to show mercy." Dr. Song Yunwoo was putting the finishing touches on humanity's most terrible weapons in her laboratory. The devices looked surprisingly small and simple, but each one could destroy a star system so completely that nothing would ever live there again. "Are you sure about this?" asked her assistant, Dr. Choi Minho. "Once we use these, there's no going back. The galaxy will never be the same." "The galaxy was never going to be the same," Dr. Song Yunwoo replied. "The moment they declared war on Earth, they changed everything. Now we're just making sure they understand what they changed it into." Captain Han Jiho stood on the bridge of the extinction event, humanity's first purpose-built planet killer. The ship was ugly and functional, built for one mission: to make sure that anyone who threatened human children would lose everything they had ever built. His crew was made up entirely of volunteers. Every person on board knew they would probably not survive their mission. They had all volunteered anyway. "Captain," reported his navigation officer, "we have confirmation. Strike Forces Alpha through Gamma have reached their target systems. All teams report ready." Han Jiho nodded. While the aliens focused their attention on attacking Earth, humanity was about to strike at the heart of every civilization in the Alien Alliance. 7 strike forces, each carrying weapons designed to end civilizations permanently. "Send the message to all strike force commanders," he ordered. "Tell them to wait for my signal. We go in all at once, or not at all." Commander Lee Suyan was leading Strike Force Alpha toward the Vorthak homeworld. Her ships were not the biggest or most powerful in the human fleet, but they carried something more dangerous than weapons. They carried the absolute determination of a species that had decided extinction was preferable to slavery. "All ships, this is Commander Lee Suyan," she broadcast to her fleet. "In a few hours we will enter the system that has been home to the Vorthak Empire for over 50,000 years. They have built a beautiful civilization there. Great cities, magnificent art, centers of learning that have stood for millennia." She paused, looking at the stars ahead of them. We are going to destroy all of it, not because we hate the Vorthak people, but because they need to understand what happens when someone threatens to put human children in cages. Back on Earth, President Ryu Jimin was addressing the planet for what might be the last time. "My fellow humans," she said, looking directly into the camera. "In 6 hours, the largest alien fleet in galactic history will arrive at Earth. They come here believing that destroying our homeworld will end human resistance to their rule." She stood up from her desk and walked to the window, looking up at the blue sky that would soon be filled with enemy ships. "They are wrong. Humans have never fought for buildings or land or even planets. We fight for the idea that our children should be free to reach for the stars. That idea doesn't live on Earth. It lives in every human heart, no matter where in the galaxy that heart beats." Admiral Choi Won-shik commanded the defense of Earth. He had every human warship that could reach Earth in time, plus thousands of converted civilian vessels and orbital defense platforms. It wasn't enough to stop 3,000 alien ships, but it might be enough to make them pay. "All ships, this is Admiral Choi Won-shik," he broadcast to the Earth Defense Fleet. "The enemy thinks this battle will end the war. They think that when Earth falls, humanity will surrender. Let's show them how wrong they are." The alien fleet appeared at the edge of the solar system exactly when intelligence had predicted. 3,000 ships, each one more advanced than anything humanity had ever built. Supreme War Master Krexthan's flagship was at the center of the formation, a massive vessel that could destroy cities with single shots. "Send the final surrender demand," Krexthan ordered. He still hoped that seeing the size of his fleet would convince the humans to give up. The message was broadcast to every human ship and station in the solar system. "This is Supreme War Master Krexthan of the Galactic Council. You are outnumbered 20 to 1. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick. Continue to resist, and we will make your species extinct slowly and painfully." The human response came from Admiral Choi Won-shik himself. "This is Earth Defense Command. We have a counteroffer. Leave our system now and some of your people might survive what's coming." Krexthan couldn't believe what he was hearing. The humans were outnumbered and outgunned, facing certain destruction, and they were making threats? "What is coming?" he demanded. "What could you possibly threaten us with?" The answer came not from Admiral Choi Won-shik, but from Captain Han Ji-ho, broadcasting from the edge of Vorthak space. "This is Captain Han Ji-ho of the Human Starship Extinction Event. I am currently in orbit around Vorthak Prime, your homeworld. In approximately 30 seconds I will demonstrate what happens when someone threatens Earth." On the Vorthak homeworld, billions of aliens looked up at their sky to see human ships descending through the atmosphere. But these ships weren't firing weapons at cities or military bases. They were heading for the planet's core. Dr. Song Yanwoo's planet killer devices were designed to destabilize a world's geological structure so completely that the planet would tear itself apart. It was not a quick death. It was a slow, inevitable destruction that would take hours and could not be stopped once it began. "Vorthak Prime is now dying," Captain Han Ji-ho announced to the alien fleet at Earth. "Your homeworld has approximately 6 hours before it becomes a cloud of radioactive debris. But that's not all." Similar announcements came from the other 6 strike forces. The Zelani homeworld was dying. The Thuros homeworld was dying. All 7 civilizations in the Alien Alliance were watching their most precious worlds begin to tear themselves apart. Supreme War Master Krexthan felt something he had never experienced before. Absolute terror. Not for himself, but for his entire species. "Stop this," he screamed into his communicator. "We withdraw our fleets. The war is over. Stop the destruction of our worlds." Captain Park Yuna, leading the strike team that had infiltrated the Galactic Council chambers, responded from the Council's own communication center. "The war is not over," she said calmly. "The war will be over when every species that dared threaten Earth is extinct. You declared war on Earth believing we were a threat to galactic peace. You were wrong. We weren't a threat then. We are now." Dr. Jung Seo-hyun's voice joined the broadcast from her laboratory ship in orbit around the Thuros homeworld. "We have one more gift for you. A biological weapon designed specifically for each of your species. It won't kill you. It will make sure you can never have children again. Your species will end not in war, but in simple, quiet extinction." The alien fleet at Earth suddenly found themselves facing an impossible choice. They could destroy Earth, but their homeworlds were already doomed. They could retreat to try to save their families, but there was no way to stop the planet killers or the biological weapons. They had thought they were fighting a war for galactic stability. They discovered they were fighting a war for their very existence, and they were losing. Supreme Warmaster Crexton looked at the displays showing his dying homeworld and realized the terrible truth. The humans had never been fighting to win. They had been fighting to make sure that everyone who threatened them would lose everything. Why? He asked over the open channel. Why destroy entire civilizations? We only wanted to protect the galaxy from your expansion, President Ryu Jimin answered from her bunker beneath Seoul. Because you called us vermin. Because you wanted to put our children in cages.